everyone. So many thanks for all of those of you that are actually getting this as a recording. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to those that are actually joining us live today. Today, this webinar is going to be brought to you in conjunction with Notre University Australia, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined on this webinar with Professor Selma Alliex, who's the Pro Vice Chancellor Student Experience at the university, and also our very good friend of the tablet, Renee, who is the National Head of the School of Philosophy and Theology. And the team went on, they took some of the students on a pilgrimage to the World Youth Day in Portugal. And so we're going to talk a bit about the experience, how the students felt, what they got out of this World Youth Day, because it was a completely different, seemed to have a different vibe to other World Youth Day, and also how the university went about actually setting up the pilgrimage. So less of me, more of Renee and the team. So over to you, Renee. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Amanda, and lovely to be here. I'm really happy to be here with Professor Alliex, with Selma. And I might just first of all ask our students to introduce themselves, because we have 3 wonderful students here on the line with us, and we're hoping to hear a lot from them about how they experienced the pilgrimage and World Youth Day. So, Carl, I might just start with you.
Yep, my name is Carl, and I'm studying a double degree, Bachelor of Laws / Bachelor of Philosophy, Politics and Economics. And it was a great trip.
Thanks, Carl. We'll get more out of you about that in a moment. Shanara.
Good morning or good afternoon, evening to everyone. My name is Shanara. I am studying a Bachelor of Exercise and Sports Science at the University of Notre Dame on the Fremantle campus.
Thank you, Shanara. Anthony.
Hola. I'm doing a master's in primary school teaching in Sydney in Notre Dame.
Thanks very much, Anthony. So you can tell already that we are a national university at University of Notre Dame, Australia, spanning from coast to coast. So Shanara and Selma are both on the Fremantle campus in beautiful Western Australia, and Carl and Anthony and I are all in bustling Sydney. Selma, I wonder if you could tell our audience a little bit about the university, and in particular, why it is that we decided that a pilgrimage would be a good idea, given where the university is right now in its stage of growth.
Thanks very much, Renee. Hello, everyone. It's lovely to be part of this webinar and share with you our experiences of taking 44 students to the World Youth Day in Lisbon. Like Renee said, the University of Notre Dame, Australia was founded in 1989, so we're not that old as far as universities go, but we have we're proud of the fact that we're the oldest Catholic university in Australia. There's one other. And you know, we started from a premise of providing professionals to work in education and health facilities that were of the faith. And with that view in mind, we started as a very small university, but we have now grown to about 12,000 students in about 35 years. We probably have the privilege of being the only university with 2 schools of medicine, 2 schools of law on each of our campuses. We have got a reconciliation campus, which is in Broome in Western Australia, which is about 3,000 kilometers from Perth. And so with these 3 campuses, we are a truly national university. We have clinical medical schools across the country as well. Being a Catholic university, for us, it's very important that our students get that exposure to the faith in many different ways, in many different dimensions, and the pilgrimage was just one of them. Whilst we've sent students on World Youth Day pilgrimages in the past, we felt that this time it was the university had grown enough in terms of international exposure for our students that we would take our students on a separate journey on World Youth Day, unlike any other year that we've supported World Youth Day. And so this time the the direction really for us was to take our students as a group of Notre Dame students. We also had 9 Australian Catholic University students that joined us on this pilgrimage, and we combined it with the core curriculum elective pilgrimage that Renee ran and coordinated, which I'm sure she'll talk about in a little while. And having those 3 weeks, 1 week of World Youth Day and 2 weeks of the co-curriculum pilgrimage, we thought would make a huge impact on our students from understanding what our faith was like. We termed our pilgrimage the saints, scholars, and Notre Dame with a very specific purpose of in fact making our students aware of what was available from a spirituality point of view through France, Spain, and then Portugal for World Youth Day. So that's a gist of why we came up with the program. But Renee, I might just hand over to you to talk about the co-curriculum course.
Thanks, Selma. So I'm going to let our students on the line in on a little secret, which is that we wanted to put together a course which could only be taken in such a way that Notre Dame students could take it. So it would be absolutely connected to your studies, and it would connect you to one of the strategic pillars of the strategic plan of the university, which is universality. So universality is where, as a church, you should be able to walk into any Catholic church or any Catholic university all around the world and feel very much at home. And so I wanted to actually hand over to you in the first instance and to ask you whether you had that experience when you were on World Youth Day and when you were on the pilgrimage. So we started in Paris, obviously, and we were on the terrain of the University of Paris, one of the oldest Catholic universities. And we had Mass that day in the Irish College in Paris. And I remember one of the students said, well, that was pretty amazing. Here I was in Paris. I'm an Australian. It was Mass in English, but I was in the Irish College and I felt completely at home and I knew what was going on. Well, that's kind of amazing. And then we ended up, when we got to Salamanca, we had a lovely Mass and reception at the Scots College. So there was this kind of theme. And when we were in Salamanca too, we had a tour of the Pontifical University. And I know when I was walking through those halls of the university, I felt very much at home. So I might just throw it over to you. What struck you about World Youth Day, the pilgrimage? Where did you have those most intense moments of feeling like you were Catholic, and so wherever you were in a Catholic space or with a Catholic group, you were very much at home? Who'd like to go first? Shanara?
Yeah, so I think definitely, the first day that we got there, having Mass at the Irish College in English was just a big wow moment. It was something, looking back on it now, it was something so small, but had such a significant impact on me, knowing that, we are so connected no matter where we go in the world. And another day when we were in World Youth Day in Lisbon, actually myself and Anthony and two other pilgrims, we went to a small concert that was held on the coastline of Lisbon, and we were there with the Colombians on our right and the Spanish on our left and the French in front of us, and we were all there just to celebrate. We were there for one reason, and we had a huge language barrier between us, but we were still trading gifts. Like one of the Colombian ladies, she gave me this beautiful wooden cross, and I had a little Australian koala that I gave to her in exchange. And we were just so excited, just trading these gifts and trying to somehow fix that language barrier between us. And it was so crazy to even think, here I am ready to experience what I'm here for on World Youth Day, but I'm not the only one doing it. There's also someone from a different country who's also there. And it's just feeling that whole connectiveness. And that was a really big moment to me that made me feel like, wow, like I'm not the only one who has this feeling, this love, this deep connection to my faith. And I can feel it with another person my age. So, yeah.
Thank you, Shanara. And that with another person my age, I think that's part of the genius behind World Youth Day as well, that there's so many young people together and there's so much energy. And we might come back to that as well to talk about how this particular World Youth Day might have been really special and significant in ways that other World Youth Days were also special and significant. But what was it about this one that really captured us? Anthony, I think over to you now.
Thank you. One of the moments that struck me was in Spain, going to the university there, and just was very open to us. That, like, we can experience walking through the halls, and our tour guide is like, "Yeah, you should come do a semester over here." And half of us were seriously like, "Yeah, we should." um, and I just know that like I would have never thought about it like before this experience, and now like I'm secretly like seeing how much it would cost to go overseas, like just to like experience like a different culture and studying, but know that like there's a sort of comfort because they like they're Catholic as well, so like it's not completely new, but I liked that balance and that new experience.
Thanks, Anthony. Carl, would you like to talk about universality in the pilgrimage?
Yeah. I just liked we had our own community of students with the same goal, and like we were from two different sides of Australia, yet we were able to connect very well, and we all like were there for the same reason, and it was just good, and like yeah, I mean it's hard to explain it, but we were all there for the same reason, and each church got more beautiful as we went to the next. And it was just, yeah, or like the beauty of Catholicism is it, yeah, you could feel it.
Thanks, Carl. And obviously, this was an experience that we were really keen to talk to you about beforehand. So we prepared the students beforehand with classes and with formation experiences. We connected them in with the local diocese and archdiocese. So there was lots of prayer, lots of preparation, with the idea that that would then help to prepare students so they wouldn't just land cold, but they could really have the advantage of really experiencing the impact of being in these wonderful places and then of having that experience. Can I ask you all, what kind of impact has this had on you? So what were you kind of going through on this pilgrimage, which was sometimes pretty tough, actually? We were on the move a lot, and there were some hot days, and people were getting sore and tired, and there were moments when we didn't know if we'd get in the hotel room before we collapsed on the floor, all of this kind of thing. Lots of coach trips with lots of singing. How did you find that whole experience? Was it what you expected? And then I'm going to follow up with another question, which you can think about as you're answering this one, which is, how has it sort of impacted you upon coming back? And I know that's something we've talked about as well. So what does the pilgrimage mean for you now? So when you left, you probably had some expectations. Were they met? Or, what happened to you along the way? As much as you're comfortable to feel, comfortable talking about it, of course.
Well,
Carl, I might
for
start
me,
with you. Yeah.
yeah, my expectations were surpassed because like I come from a non-denominational background, and now I'm becoming a Catholic from the trip because it was yeah, because I saw the role the church played, because we went to Paris, and like seeing the Pantheon and seeing the beauty of Christianity, and then it goes like slowly down to modern art. I don't know, you can just see there's a loss of beauty without the church, which is yeah, it's kind of drawn me to the church. So yeah, I got more out of it than I thought I would.
Mm.
So yeah,
Thanks,
very thankful to
Carl.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off. Was there anything else you wanted to say there?
No, I'm just very thankful for the trip.
Great. Shannara, what about you?
Definitely going into the trip, I was not sure what to expect. For a little bit of context, my background is Sri Lankan. I'm the oldest born here in Australia from my family, and my parents and my grandparents, especially on my mum's side, they've grown up having this deep faith and this deep love for the church, and they've all told me about these beautiful experiences, about all these beautiful places, and how important Lourdes is and Fatima, and I've only heard about all this, and same for my grandma and my mum. They've all heard, and they've only read about these beautiful experiences. So going off from what they have told me and what I've grown up hearing in their words, I was kind of expecting, oh, it'll be a nice little trip where I got to go and I get to pray every day and I get to look at a nice church and we get to walk around and go on a little tour. But it became more than just going and looking at a church. It became looking at a church, looking at the history and who walked and who influenced that history, who made it possible, how did it become possible? And taking away so much from that has, I don't know, it's just made me become so much more grateful about why I'm a Catholic and why I've been brought up with this faith. Like I don't think in many religions that I've been made aware of, people can say, oh, I've walked in the church where this saint was born, raised, and died. This is the place of one saint. It became so significant to me. Like when we were walking through Lourdes, I was praying at the grotto and I was like, this is where everything happened. This is where history was made. And it became so much more to me. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to put it into words how you feel, because entering into this place is like such a moving experience. And it's just like you go in there, it's like something changes in you. And you can't even describe it. It's like a little piece of the puzzle just kind of fits into place. And then, that's it. That's the missing piece. So yeah, it definitely feels like everything's just kind of nicely snug into place now. Like I can see the whole picture of the jigsaw. So yeah.
And for our listeners, you're probably wondering, well, where did all of these people go? So what we did was that we landed in Paris and we spent a day in Paris, where we looked at we visited the church where Pascal is buried. So knowing that an apostolic letter about Blaise Pascal had just come out talking about the relationship between faith and reason, and Pascal as a scientist as well as a theologian. And then we went to the Pantheon because we thought that that was a place where students could see really quickly how French society is so much born from the beauty of the church, and at the same time has a history that is really impacted by the French Revolution. And that was something that students then saw throughout the rest of France. So whenever something, quite often, I shouldn't say whenever, but quite often, if a statue had been harmed or something like this, it was because of the French Revolution. So they could always kind of take it back to that building at the Pantheon. And then we had mass at the Irish College. We had a beautiful trip down the Seine, so that was lovely as well. We even took a Paris metro, so that was an experience. And then we went to Chartres and saw the beautiful cathedral in Chartres. And then we went to Lourdes. We were 2 nights in Lourdes. And then we went on from Lourdes into Spain. We had mass in the very room where Ignatius of Loyola experienced his conversion and learned about Ignatian discernment, which we practiced throughout the whole pilgrimage as well. So there was lots of learning about the different charisms we were coming into contact really through experience. We went to Kohler-Ryan, which I cannot pronounce. But so we saw where St. Dominic was born and where basically the Dominican order came about. And this just gave me, I know, a great sense of where this beautiful Spanish spirituality, which often uses images of mountains and castles, somehow it all came alive when we went to Avila and saw those beautiful walls and spent some time with Teresa of Avila. We also had mass in Avila with a lot of other Australian pilgrims. So I think there were about 300 of us, 4 different dioceses. And then we were the only university group from the whole of Australia to be going as university students. We had a lot of our alumni coming up to us actually before and after that mass saying, hey, Notre Dame, if you'd been doing this when I was there, I would have totally been on this trip. That is so cool. So that was great as well. And then we went on to the wonderful Salamanca, to the university there, and had the tour of the university and ended in Scots College. And then on to World Youth Day itself, which is, of course, what we need to get to next. And then ending with a 3-day or 3-night, in fact, retreat in Fatima, realizing that when you've come such a long way and then you've gone through this whole very intense experience of World Youth Day, that that there needs to be some time to really reflect and to come together again. Anthony, I didn't come to you on that last part. Did you want to comment on, I just thought it was probably important to give a bit of context, but would you like to comment on your experience of the pilgrimage? And then we'll probably launch into the World Youth Day week. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, like, some of us got sunburnt, some of us got lost, some of us even got a little bit sick, but I know everyone would do it all over again. That was just how much, like, the benefits and the joy we shared together was, like, it was like the good times and the bad made it perfect. Like, the structure as well as the freedom, and it was like a package. Like the whole experience was perfect. Like, and that's what I want to say.
Thanks, Anthony. Selma, we went into this knowing sort of what we were doing, but probably not quite what we were getting ourselves into. Could you give us a bit of insight into what you thought might happen, and then what were some of the great things that did happen that weren't so expected when we were doing all of the planning?
I think, Renee, that's such an important question. And, because this is going to be a regular event and we know the next one's going to be in Seoul in 2027, I think there were so many learnings from our preparatory time. And, we started planning for the trip almost a year in advance, because those of us that work at universities know that things work at not breakneck speed, shall we say. And it does mean that all the ducks have to be in a row before we can actually proceed with anything, with levels of approvals and the budget planning and making sure that the tourism side of it is all sorted. With World Youth Day itself, I think once we expected there were going to be crowds of millions in their millions, what that looked like was just an unknown for us. And I think, no matter what the preparations were, we couldn't really predict or preempt what was going to happen. And I think the fact that we started planning well ahead of time, and there were hiccups along the way that we faced, and obstacles that we had to get through. I think for me, in terms of organizing the entire trip, and Renee and Father Eamon were integral to the first part of it, was the links that we had with the Archdiocese in the two states. That was really, really important for us, because in previous years, our students were supported to go with the Archdiocese rather than as university students. And so this was a complete change for us, but it did mean that we didn't want to take away from the Archdiocesan group that would normally be going. And so we wanted to make sure that our students got the best of both worlds, and connecting with the coordinators of the Archdiocese became a really important exercise. We were in a very fortunate position too in Australia, because there was a coordinators group for every group that actually went from Australia. So there were 4,000 people that left from Australia, and every one of those, whether they were parishes or whether there was us as a university or whether they were high schools or primary schools, each one had a coordinator, and the coordinators group met really regularly. The biggest challenge, I guess, was actually putting together a risk assessment plan and a critical incident management plan, which in hindsight was one of the best things, because it was about predicting anything that could go wrong went into that. And we ended up with a risk management plan that went into 75 pages. We've had a follow-up with our teams to say, perhaps we don't need that long risk management plan for the next time. But, actually writing down and working on mitigation strategies for each of the problems that could occur was very, very helpful. getting the students together, letting them know about the financial support that the university was going to offer them, making sure that we knew our students beforehand. Renee's already spoken about the preparation we did from a theoretical point of view. That became really important. Getting to know the students before they went became really important. And that negotiations with the travel agents was, very, very important to the whole preparation that we did. And then finally, when the day came, the joyous occasion, I think, for us before leaving was the handing out of the merchandise, making sure that every student had a T-shirt and they had their backpacks and they had everything that symbolized who they were and who they were representing. And I think for me, that was a really happy occasion. And then, of course, I was happier when we all came back safe and sound in one piece without any issues. So, yes, but the preparation was extremely important. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Selma. I think that, so I was helping with the academic side of things, and we had students do an assessment task beforehand, and then they've handed in their journals since they came back, where they were reading different materials about the different sites we were going to, reflecting on them. And we just met tonight to talk about the final assessment, which is what they learned overall from the whole experience. There's been a lot of sort of ongoing learning happening. For me, one of the most exciting things is you always hope that your students are going to get along and make friendships for life. I actually think that might have happened with this group. There were 44 of them. And whenever I see them, there's just a joy. And one of the students was talking about it tonight, just before when we met as a big group, where she said that just knowing that there are other people out there who think the same way that she does, who actually care about their faith and care about God and really want to be on that journey throughout the whole of their lives together has been incredibly inspirational. And I hope that the students will continue to support each other as they go through life. So I wanted to hand over to the students now, because there's we talk about World Youth Day, and I'd really like to unpack that a little bit with you, because World Youth Day isn't just a day. What is World Youth Day? Can someone explain this to me? I went to World Youth Day in Rome a number of years ago, and I thought it would be a day, and of course it wasn't. So what was it for you? What did you experience? Was it what you expected? What do you think the church is doing, having this big World Youth Day, which is basically bringing together, this time it was 1.5 million people from all across the world, to do this insane thing of, I don't know, on the day, you celebrate Mass together, but you also do crazy things like walk 11 Ks in 40-degree heat and camp out overnight? What's that all about? Is that what young people really want? Is that what sets your heart on fire? Is that what keeps your faith going? What do you think? Can you explain what World Youth Day is? Explain it to someone old now like me. What is it now? Carl, help me out here.
I would say it's a challenge that you got to take up. Went over multiple days. It was crowded. That's what made it fun. Just getting nice and close to people. And it was a good experience. There was something on each day. Like we went to a talk. I forgot the guy's name, but it was about theology of the body. We went to a talk on that. So yeah, each day had something to give. There was Stations of the Cross, where they went for each station. There was the opening Mass ceremony. We got to see the Pope. And then you do the vigil, and then you do the last Mass. So yeah, it's not just one day, it's multiple days.
So what happens what happens at the vigil?
I mean, we got into there was the Portuguese, and they were in our section, and we accidentally stepped on their tops. They got angry at us, so we had to leave that section, and then we had to sleep on the road. So yeah, so the night vigil is like, I mean, I went to bed like instantly and slept on the road. So I don't know actually what it was.
All right, can someone else help me out? Did anyone actually do the vigil?
Yeah, actually Anthony and I and two other students managed to get a good spot to sleep in our allocated section.
Very good.
Despite the fact that we were walking for, I think, oh good Lord, how many hours? 6+ hours we walked, and when we finally got there, it was just hot, we were sticky, and we were walking through thousands of people in one area, trying not to step on everyone's, stuff. And then we finally had a little pathway made, and we just slept. And there was myself and another person, and then Anthony and another guy, and the four of us were just bundled up together in this one spot. But despite the fact that, we were so close to everyone, there was a family here and some guy snoring over there, we were still able to just sit there, and we saw the Pope just literally a couple of k's in front of us, and he was just praying, and he had a beautiful adoration for about 20 minutes. We took part in absolute silence. Imagine 1.5 million people being in absolute silence. That's just insane to even understand, to even grasp that. Like, in a classroom of 15 people, you'd have more noise than what we had experienced there. And being able to just be there and be in silence, and to pray with absolute strangers around us, with babies crying and families nearby, but that silence, that pure adoration of just being in that presence with the Pope and to pray, that was just mind-blowing. And we had adoration, we had a little mass, and then we slept. Some slept, some partied, but we slept as much as we could. Despite how cold the grass was and the spiders crawling all over us, and some people getting better sleep than others, and some sharing a pillow and a blanket, and it was still a big mess of a night. But it was just being able to then wake up and the sun rising on our left, coming up from the ocean. For me, that's weird. The sun sets on the ocean for us, so seeing that was a nice little surprise. But we had a DJ priest play music for us to wake us up at 7 in the morning. What? Like, this DJ was going full at it and playing music that I don't think I would have danced to at 7 in the morning. And yeah, and then we had a mass, and we all didn't understand. Not all of us understood Italian, so we're all there crowded around a phone and listening to the radio and trying to figure out what he's saying, and all the whispers going, what did he say next? What's going on? What's he saying in the homily? But that whole night was just not what we expected, and something that I would love to remember. I hope I will never forget it, because I hope I will tell my children I slept next to 3 strangers who I barely knew. I had one of them on my pillow, another one wrapped up against me because we were cold. But those memories are something that, as a youth, I love being with people my age and having something that connects me with them. And I think definitely myself and those people that I spent that night with, I feel like I shared a special moment with them. And of course, the people that I walked the 6 hours with, being tired and hot and stinky, I shared a moment with them. And I think this World Youth Day was more significant than the others because we had something that we worked hard for. And we can remember that we struggled and we walked, and we have those special memories that you only share with specific people. And those 44 people that I did that walk with, that I slept out in the night, they are the group of people that made everything so memorable and so special. And I hope this friendship that I have with them lasts for the rest of my life. So, yeah.
Thank you, Shannara. Thank you. That's a beautiful testimony. Anthony, what was it like seeing the Pope?
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. How many times did you see him? And did he come in with like a rock star in a helicopter?
Well, no, he came in one of those golf buggies, I think.
Okay.
And I was surprised that they didn't even give him an umbrella. But I think I saw him 3 times. Of course, like not too close. But what really struck me about the Pope was during one of his talks, like I was able to hear the translation, and it it hit me that this was the first time I'm actually listening to the Pope, like not just some newscast or like report of what he said or like what the Pope. It was just the words from his mouth, and like it just like I felt so appreciative because this is the leader of our church, and like I can actually like get close enough to him, but also hear him actually talk, not parrot it from someone else.
Yeah.
And that was one of my good experiences that I loved about this.
And was there anything, so not just you, Anthony, but anyone who wants to answer, was there anything that he said that really struck you as being really significant for being a young person of faith today?
During his final mass?
Yeah, at any point when you heard him. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. One of the points that struck me, it was faith is like training for a soccer match. It's a goal. So it's not just it's not about the goal, like kicking the ball into it's all about the practice beforehand.
Uh-huh.
And like it's a daily thing where you can get better at it and constantly improve. And I really enjoyed that like piece of information, and like it's something that because I like training, and to incorporate that into my spiritual life, it was just like squeeze it or fits right in.
Yeah. So it struck you as very true and something that
Yeah.
possibly you'd been experiencing yourself as this great training that we'd been done for a couple of weeks before you even got to Lisbon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like especially the lessons beforehand, like really put into perspective, like, and like I could actually appreciate it more deeply, all these lessons that we did beforehand and during, like all the pre-reading as well.
It's great. So one of the main things that we were trying to help our students to appreciate was that pilgrimage is hard. So if you're feeling like it's hard, that's about right. It's supposed to be hard. And the journey that you're doing physically is really a journey that you're undertaking spiritually at the same time. So, Carl, was there anything that the Pope said that struck you during your time there that you hadn't really thought about before?
I'll be honest, I didn't have any access to a translator, so I didn't actually know it.
Okay.
But I'm sure it was insightful. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl. Shanara?
There was actually, I'm still trying to remember the exact words for it, but he was talking about how in different walks of life, there will be people who look down on us. But as people of faith, we shouldn't have to look down on people. We should look at them in the eye. And if they fall down and there is a chance that we have to look down on them, we should pull them up, help them up so we can see them eye to eye. And I think that really did work as a point of, having that connectiveness with everyone. Like, despite the different countries and despite the different ways of life that we grew up with, we still see eye to eye in some way, and that is without faith. Being able to have that connection and that same level that we look at life at, that's what connects all of us, and that's what brought all of us there to be in that one spot for that one reason.
Thank you, Shanara. Selma, what about you? Did you hear anything unexpected?
Look, I just was very privileged, I think, to lead the group in Lisbon and then at the retreat in Fatima, because the resilience that our students showed in the face of the adversity related to temperatures and the walk, which was 11 kilometers, and like Shanara said, did take us about 6 hours to get to, and then once we got all the food, the bags were really heavy, it till we got to the point where we got to the sleep out, and a lot of the students they couldn't find the space where they were meant to be because it was all filled and people were not letting them get in. But they didn't mind all of those things, and for me that was like proper adults. They were able to problem solve and manage, and and deal with the situation themselves. So I think that was really important for me to see. The fact that the majority of we had a couple of sick students who couldn't do the walk, but they then came back for mass in the morning, and just the presence, everyone waiting to hear from His Holiness where the next World Youth Day was, the excitement in the air to find out where it was going to be, and that was palpable, really, all around, because people were waiting to hear and then start making their plans for it. The fact that we actually did get the students some downtime to reflect and absorb all of it, I think was really important. And then when we got into Fatima, the spirituality that the students demonstrated, but also their keenness in learning more, their keenness in getting up at the crack of dawn to actually walk through the Stations of the Cross, but also to do the processions and pray and just find their own way and pray in their own ways, which were very different from each other, was for me very satisfying and very reassuring that we actually did do the right thing by taking a group of students, all of them who are under 24. I think there was one person probably who was a bit over. And so the real youth of today, the students themselves commented on the enormity of the faith in youth from around the world, and how that had such a profound impact on them. And I think that was very significant learning for all of our students. It's that the faith is alive. Going to the various places, visiting the museum in Fatima, seeing the bullet that Pope John Paul II was shot with. A lot of the students commented on how their faith had been brought to life by that. And they knew that even though it was such a spiritually profound experience, it was also a real one. So, those kinds of comments, which were completely unsolicited, I think for me was a very gratifying experience.
So now that we're all back again, I think that we've all experienced that coming home has been good, but it's been a bit hard. And a lot of the students have expressed this to us, that they came back and immediately they'd been sort of on this spiritual high, and then coming back and it's assessments, and because the world had just kept on going while we were off on pilgrimage and on World Youth Day. But what I'm really interested in, and I know it's actually pretty early days yet, are a couple of things. One is, what difference has World Youth Day made already to you in your lives now? And if someone comes to you in 3-4 years time, when the next World Youth Day is being planned, and if they said to you, is it worth it? Because it seems like a lot of effort. It's a lot of money. Selma and I both know it's a lot of planning. Just putting together a 75-page risk management plan is pretty tough. And you can imagine that was only one part of the piece. Is it worth it? Or should we be spending our energy doing something else? What do you think, guys?
Well,
so first of all, how are you feeling now? And what would you say to the next person coming? Yeah, Carl?
Yeah, well, how I feel now is that it's put everything in perspective. Like I said before in our other class, we went with Father Eamon. Father Eamon said the real world is the pilgrimage, and our ordinary lives are like, it's like when you read Ecclesiastes, like it's chasing the wind. It's ultimately it's not going to get you anything, purposeful, meaningful, unlike God. So yeah, it set everything into perspective. And also I learned like humility is probably the most important virtue of all. And you can see when you go to France, no offense to the French, but like when you lack humility, self-destruction happens. So yeah, I've learned like humility is such an important virtue to have. And yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone.
But why? Why would you recommend it? Why would you recommend that they throw their whole lives up in the air and have to come back to reality, and the assessments are still there, the bills still have to be paid, and they still have to do the washing up? What do you reckon?
I mean, well, what's more important? You gotta say what's more important. Is it the bills? Is it the work? Or is it going through the spiritual journey that, it will be hard, but, you got to have your attention on something, and it's better to have it on the most important thing. So yes, you have all the other obligations, but a spiritual journey, which will increase your faith, is probably going to be worth more and have long lasting impact on your life. And you do need to make sacrifices, but you just need to weigh up what you care for more. And I think doing the pilgrimage, you'll gain wisdom and you'll get an appreciation of the church, of the faith. I mean, that's what I got. So
That's great.
I
Thank
recommend.
you. Yeah.
Definitely worth it.
Thank you. What do you think, Shannara? What are you going to say?
Well, I think I'm not sure, to be honest. I like, as someone who, to be honest, going on this trip, I was not too sure about how to feel, what I was going to expect. And I was quite nervous. But I think it also depends. For me, I felt like this whole trip became that extra little bit special because of the people we went with. In the first few days when we were in Paris, we immediately connected. And on our way, when we were driving from France down to Spain and passing through St. Anthony, we all had music in the back and everyone was singing, and there was Bohemian Rhapsody and old school classics. And it was just that whole little connection. It was just lots of fun and it was really vibey. And I think as a youth, as someone from the younger generation, it really makes so much more of a difference. It's great, of course, be able to go and experience the churches and look at the history, but then, I could go do that with my dad. I could come down to Fremantle and look at the history with my dad, but, it's not the same. Like, it's not the same as, having a little bit of like that little extra special moment, that little extra special memory. And yeah, just like the little things really matter. Like even when we were in Fatima in the last few nights, we sometimes all sat in the corridors, and I had bought some watermelon. I was sitting there, I was sharing the watermelon with everyone. We'd all just sit and we just chat, and just like those little things, like the little memories of just sitting together in the room and playing games and telling stories and learning more about each other. Just that little bit of extra connection makes everything so much more different. And I think, like, despite the fact that, some people live on the other side of the country from me, we still have that little extra memory that makes it a little bit more special. So I think some of us are already preparing for 2027 World Youth Day in Seoul. So it's just had that much of an impact that, you can't just say, oh yeah, you have to go, but like, who are you going to go with? How are you going to get there? What are you going to do when you get there? It's just, there's a little bit of extra planning needed, but if you plan it right with the right people, it will just all fit into place, and it'll be something that you'll look forward to share the memories with when you see those people again.
Thanks, Shannara. Anthony?
Yep. So if someone did come to ask me, should I go to World Youth Day? I'll be like, do a course at Notre Dame, and then you should go.
All right, so you've just segued beautifully into something that I was going to ask you, which is, did it make a difference that you went with other uni students from your own university?
Yes, 100 times. There's the experience of going to World Youth Day, but what Notre Dame did was it distilled the most important parts that we should take from it, and it gave an opportunity to meet new people, and like it gave enough time to make bonds, but also through those bonds we were able to learn more about our own generation, our own faith, while also learning about the world outside. I believe that if we went by ourselves, like it would still be an experience, it would still hit us hard, but this pilgrimage specifically was like one of a kind, and the people were one of a kind. So, and like it sucks a little bit because I made friends in Perth that I do want to see. And
there's lots of talk about you guys visiting different campuses now, though, so we might be all right.
like a road trip or something at least. But it was the experience altogether that I'm so appreciative of Renee and Selma, because they organized so much. Selma, sorry, like they organized everything for us, but they also gave us enough freedom to explore our faith as well. And that's what I would say.
Thanks, Anthony. And Selma, what do you think? Has it been a good way of us understanding our own strategic plan and the direction of the university a bit better, this whole experience of the pilgrimage?
Definitely, Renee. I think, although it fitted perfectly within universality, it also helped our students understand about educating for the common good, integral human development, which is so important to us, because I could see that even though the students couldn't see it themselves, as an outsider looking in and hearing all of their conversations, I think that was very significant in terms of their own development, their understanding of other cultures, their mixing in with other cultures, and just spontaneously starting to dance with the Colombians and the Spanish people, and in the middle of the street. I mean, you wouldn't get that in any other experience. And just seeing that, I think, for me, it brought our entire strategic plan into action. It actually did put it into action. And it's a very good example of how our faith can actually dictate that and demonstrate how we live our strategic plan. So yes, it was very useful from that point of view. It was very a positive experience.
So you think we should do it again?
Yes, we should definitely do it again. It depends on which staff we send.
That's right. We'll have recovered in the next few years, Selma. We should be right.
Yeah, there's plenty of time to discuss that.
We'll take it offline, as they say.
Yeah.
So another question for our students. Can you tell us a bit about what you're studying and how the pilgrimage has made you think about your studies a little bit differently? Anthony, I'll start with you. I always end up with you. So let's start with you.
All right. So I'm starting primary school teaching, and for that we really need to communicate on like a basic level to make sure everyone understands. And on this trip, it was like so broken down, and like it was easy to digest, but there was also bits that were harder, and you really needed someone to guide you through it. And from all the tour guides and from our own leaders, I was able to like really learn more like about my faith and like other people's expressions of faith, that like I was really amazed, and like I would want to replicate in the future.
That's great. Thank you, Anthony. Carl.
Yeah. So I'm studying law, and then I'm studying another degree, philosophy, politics, and economics. So the faith and reason side of things, I mean, that went directly with philosophy. So yeah, I mean, I was tackling the questions of, why do we suffer? Because there were some students who were having had a more trouble background. So yeah, those questions were in my mind the whole trip. And also with law, I mean, I got to see, if you think of a positivist, lens of what law should be, I mean, it doesn't look pretty, but when you got law that's inspired by, God, it looks beautiful, and society just works. Because we went to all the churches and all the towns and cities, they were oriented towards the church. Like the church was on top of the hill, and that's just how society should be. But that's my opinion. But yeah, the question of faith and reason, that one was a big question, and yeah, I don't think you can have good reason without faith, because you need faith to construct a reality. You can't do that with pure reason. It just doesn't work. But yeah.
Thanks, Carl. Shanara.
Well, I haven't actually really thought about how it's impacted my degree as much because I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Exercise and Sports Science. And for the past 2-3 years, it's been quite scientific based. We look at, we have to look at the facts. We have to be factual. We have to look at, we can't just fluff things up and create off the top of our head. We need something to back us up. And we're only starting to get into the social aspects and how it's things are influencing people and all that stuff, but it hasn't really impacted me as a person, and I haven't really thought about it as to how this pilgrimage would have impacted me. I think it's made me more grateful for the communications, for the way that I'm able to, people say that I get along with others easily, but I never really thought about it until the trip. And I'm grateful for that aspect, because as a coach, you need to be able to get along with everyone. You can't really have favorites and you can't have least favorites, and you have to treat everybody equally. And I think, being on this trip made me realize a bit more how I can treat people like that. But as so of the aspects of the pilgrimage, I think that's something that with time I'll be able to eventually adapt it and develop a little bit more into my degree. So it's still work in progress.
Shanara. Thanks, Shanara. Selma, I don't know about you, but I just come away with a great sense of hope whenever I talk to our pilgrims.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, it's just beautiful. Could I just ask for one word, Shanara, Anthony, and Carl? You've been so generous with your time tonight. But do you feel hopeful about the church? Because a lot of what we hear is, the church is dying. We don't have enough young people who are actually interested in their faith and who are going to bring that into the world. Do you share that same down, feeling of being down about it, or are you hopeful?
I mean, I feel pretty hopeful. Like, what's that verse where the gates of heaven will not be overcome by hell, or something along those lines. So yeah, I'm pretty hopeful. Church is alive. Let's go.
Anthony?
Sometimes it is easy to forget just how big our church is, but also how connected everyone should feel in it. And this experience really reignites that faith people have, and it really did for me, and the hope is there.
Thank you, Anthony. Shanara?
Yeah, definitely. We have so much hope, and we have the Pope who has so much faith, and he knows that he has so much trust and so much faith that we're going to continue. And we believe, having someone as great as him, having so much faith in us, in a society where people tend to look down on our generation and they say, we have no hope for these kids. What are they going to do for us? No, we have someone who has so much faith in us, and he knows how great we are going to be, and how great, that little bit of confidence that somebody gives you can take you a long way.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thanks, Shanara. Selma, any last words? And then I think we're wrapping up.
No, I think, Renee, I would just like to thank our students, because we know that after coming back even from World Youth Day, they've been participating in their local parishes. They've been spreading the word amongst other students. They're doing presentations. And I think that for us is, a really good outcome that's tangible. And so I'd just like to thank our students, but also to the tablet for giving us this opportunity to share our experiences with everyone else that's going to be watching the recordings or that are here present on the webinar. So thank you very much, Amanda.
Well, thank you. And thanks so much to Renee for hosting that. Thank you to Carl, Shanara, and to Anthony. And the tablet's been able to bring you this unique webinar, whether you're on the call or whether you're going to look at this as a recording or on YouTube, to just explore World Youth Day with some people that obviously took a huge amount of joy and inspiration from it. So thank you very much. We've had Janet in the chat box who said that she's full of joy for all who took part and appreciate very much their recollections. This experience will last a lifetime. So thank you for that comment, Janet. Is anyone on the call? Did you have any questions you wanted to just pose? We've got a little few more minutes left before we close. Anybody wanted to unmute and just say a few words? Yeah, Father Ashley.
I'd just like to thank Renee and the other participants from Australia. It's really good learning about it, and I hope we can have more joint events. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father Ashley.
We will be covering this further in the tablet, so it will also be posted on the tablet website, so it's there for any other university or students thinking of going on World Youth Day to just have a look at and explore for the next one. But on behalf of myself, the team who work on our webinars, and obviously Notre Dame, who are sponsoring this particular event, I'd like to thank everybody and hope that you have a lovely either rest of your day or a good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Till
Thank
next
you,
time.
Amanda.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.